Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Comedy, Luxembourg's finest metal podcast, with Dan and with me, Pitt. Hi Dan.
Hi, Pete. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. How about you?
Fantastic, as always.
As always, that's good.
Always
That's
when I
good
can
to hear.
speak about battle, I'm happy.
Exactly, and that's what we are doing today. We are talking today about stuffs like masks, greed, darkness, jazz, and when all these things say you something, you maybe know that we are talking about Imperial Triumphant, one of our bands that we both appreciate a lot. They are from New York City. That's also important because that plays a big role, a big part of their imagery, of their style, and also of their lyrics, of course. They were founded in 2005 by Zachary Ezrin, who also is the guitarist and the vocalist. And in 2012, they got Kenny Grohovsky on drums and Steve Blanco on bass and also background vocals. They are very difficult to describe, but not very difficult, but they are not maybe not for everybody. Let's say because they play kind of an avant-garde technical black and death metal, very experimental with jazz fusion, and yeah, that sounds maybe great at the beginning, but the first time you will hear them, it's very chaotic and it's pretty wild. What do you think about them then?
Well, I think you gave a very good description already. You labeled them a little bit like avant garde, black metal with some jazz. And yes, there is all of that. But when they put it together, it also becomes a very nightmarish experience. So on the outside, you have the golden masks that they wear, which are really awesome. Have these black gowns that they wear. And when you look at the album covers, there's a lot of gold. Their guitars are in gold. The drum kit is kind of
Mm-hmm.
also has this golden color. So it looks posh, glamorous, polished, decadent, extravagant. But when you listen to them, it's so ugly and disturbing and, of course, very dissonant. And, you and I appreciate some dissonant soundscapes,
Let's say
and
maybe a little bit, yeah.
maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And the sound is very oppressive, very dense, and kind of hard to follow. It also kind of
Yeah.
like defies the established norms of songwriting, especially most bands. They have a chorus, they have guitar solos, they
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
verses. None of that. So it's just like they're just going to suffocate you in some way with these kind of nightmarish soundscapes, and then they switch to jazz passages. Sometimes they take all the tempo out, and then suddenly they hit you really hard again with either very harrowing screams or some super thick bass lines. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that is something that it's a very unique way of expressing art. And they do try to make you feel something with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It feels disjointed and disorienting sometimes, but it's like that's like the charm of it, at least for us, and I think also for other people, because at the moment you could say they have not that small of a fan base
yeah, they're getting
for
bigger and bigger. They're now signed with Century Media, which is
for that
surely
style
not a
of music.
small. That is not a small label.
Sure, sure.
And I've seen them live twice. Uh, Even though their music is quite hard to get into, it is still surprising to see how many people learned to appreciate this type of music.
Yeah, you really
Even
have
for
to work
people
for
where I
it.
wouldn't expect it. It's like, oh, really? You like Imperial Triumphant? Oh, yeah, I do. And so it's kind of nice to see that this kind of extreme, dissonant, experimental music finds so many fans. It's
Hmm.
really awesome to see that.
Yeah, yeah. But you also see that on other bands. I mean, for
Yeah, yeah.
example, Portal. They have been there for over 20 years now, and they also have not a small fan base, and they are not less easy to listen to now.
Yeah, or you could name a myriad of bands in this genre. I mean,
Sure,
generally, you
sure.
and I are quite fairly familiar with that with dissonant metal. You could mention Pyron, Atnosim. You could mention Evitern. So there's a lot of bands that have been coming up in the last couple of years. But Imperial Triumphant, they still stand out for me because they have these kind of they have the masks, so they have the theme, and they also have the jazz elements.
Yeah, yeah.
And jazz can be a very wild kind of music, so it's improvised. They just go ahead and play, and they're not supposed to follow a specific structure. They do what feels natural, and Imperial Triumphant does the same thing, or does something similar, but with much heavier instruments, with a much heavier approach, also from the vocal side.
Yeah, even though you sometimes can hear a saxophone in the background or a
or
piano in the
trumpets,
background, and it's
it
great.
feels
Chef's
like some kind of dark, forgotten jazz lounge somewhere in the back streets of New York City, and then they would come there and start playing this extreme music.
Yeah, jazz is also very important for New York City. I mean, it's maybe
Absolutely, yeah.
the capital of jazz. You can say, at least in the 40s and the 50s, jazz was very, very big in the Big Apple. You could say.
Yeah, so it's really the energy that New York City kind of has. So it's very vibrant. You got roaring capitalism on the one hand. You got also a very elaborate art scene. So many artists go to New York City, whether they're painters or musicians or dancers or whatever. And so you got a juxtaposition of all kinds of extremes in that city.
Yeah. Also multicultural and everything. You have a lot of crime, but also a lot of art who defines the city, and all these things coming together. And Imperial Triumphant, they bring everything really good together. You could say.
Yeah, they weave it together.
Yeah. You could also say the same things about the lyrics, because they are a lot about urban decay and decadence, debauchery, greed, depraved abundance, luxury, stuff like that, and also crazy arrogance of the wealthy and then the powerful people in the city.
And sometimes about trivial stuff as well. So
Yeah.
their
Or cars.
2000 cars, that was it from their Spirit of Ecstasy album, and now with the newest one, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Goldstar is about cigarette commercials. It's like,
Yeah.
Why I don't know, why not? Maybe the best answer to that question. But yeah, so when was the first time that you heard of Imperial Triumphant and listened to them?
Yeah, that was also pretty weird. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was a online live concert of Behemoth, and Imperial Triumphant were the starting act of the concert, and it was pretty wild. They were in a very small room, played these weird jazz, black metal, death metal stuff, and that was the first time I thought, the hell am I listening to? And
what's wrong with you? Huh?
I wasn't ready for that at the beginning. I think it took over a year, and then was about the time where Alphaville came out, and yeah, since then I'm in love with this band.
Yeah, for me it was also Alphaville was the first Imperial Triumphant album that I listened to. That was after I had read a few reviews. I've been checking out new albums, and I saw this really cool artwork of one of their masks on top of a skyscraper, and this kind of Art Deco style, a lot of gold and shimmering colors. And then I listened to it. I was like, oh, what the
hell?
What is this? Because at that time, my musical brain wasn't really ready for this kind of stuff. I was used to the all like straightforward metal, a lot of guitar melodies, okay, high tempo, and something a bit more structured.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I felt like, why are they praising this album so much? What's the catch here? Or is this just something that elitist people would listen to? And so I put it away. My brain was not ready for it. So it was like in an RPG, when you go to like an open world RPG, you go to a part of the map where you're just under leveled,
Yeah.
and you
We're
just
not supposed to go. Yeah.
and you just get beaten down, and then you have to level up first, and that's what I did.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's a very well way to describe it. Yeah.
And then I really learned to appreciate Alphaville. I saw the understood the appeal. I went then back to the previous album, Vile Luxury, also amazing, probably even crazier than Alphaville.
Very jazzy.
And that means a lot, because Alphaville is heavy and difficult to get through. But Vile Luxury is I think, even crazier. I mean, you have this song called Chernobyl Blues. Just the name already is delicious, crazy.
It's an amazing song.
It's an amazing song. So very jazzy, but then they just hit you with this wall of thick bass and distorted guitars. It's really amazing. Yeah, so that was my introduction through Alphaville, and then later I went back to Vile Luxury, and then I was eagerly anticipating the new record at that time, which was then Spirit of Ecstasy. I also reviewed it on my blog. I gave it an almost perfect score. It was in my top 10 of that year. Amazing album, and as you mentioned, they also had the car commercials. That was basically part of that album as well. It was, of course, about the decadence and wealthy lifestyle and orgies, and all that was also a part of that album. I mean, the name Spirit of Ecstasy kind of gave it away.
Yeah, you could also see it in their music videos at the time when the album Spirit of Ecstasy came out.
Yes, there's this one video. It's like this ice white shot kind of setting.
Yeah, I've had a lot to think about some Stanley Kubrick movies, like Ice White Shots, also a little bit of Shining, but also the very classic silent movie Metropolis, who has also that Art Deco style.
Very much. And I also get a little bit of David Lynch vibes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, David Lynch movies are quite hard to follow and to understand, and even after like 10 views, you still don't get it.
They get better every time.
They get better every time, yeah. And Imperial Triumphant is a little bit like that too. So it's just so crazy that usually the brain is not ready for this.
Yeah, you have to work for it to appreciate it, and then you like it, and then you love it, and then you get addicted to it, and
yes, addicted.
No way back then.
At the time of this recording, their newest album, Goldstar, well, it came out yesterday. I've already listened to it quite a few times, and so do you. So what do you make of it so far?
Yeah, but until now, I just had the time to listen to it once. I have to give it a few more listens in the near future. I think it's less difficult to get into this album.
Yes.
Before we start with this episode, you already said that maybe this would be a good starting point for newcomers to get into Imperial Triumphant. There's maybe one song that comes to my mind from Goldstar is Hotel Springs, where there's also a music video which is quite goofy and funny at times. This is a very catchy song with very catchy riffs, but let's say catchy for Imperial Triumphant.
For their standards, yes.
It's still pretty technical and weird and like they are, but I think it's a good start point to get into them.
Yeah, the album is a bit leaner, so usually the albums are over 50 minutes. This one's only like 38. I think they just kind of set themselves a new goal, which was to kind of make their sound a little bit more accessible. but yet
Yeah.
still not diluting anything they
Yeah.
do. It's still crazy and warped and dense and heavy and dark and weird. But it gives you a little bit more room to breathe. You don't feel like you're suffocating from it. I really
That's
like it
true.
so
Yeah.
far. From what I heard, I like the music videos. I also love the one. Was it Lexington Delirium on top of the
On the
Chrysler
Chrysler building.
building, which
Yeah.
is so Imperial Triumphant. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
be more Imperial Triumphant than recording on one of the most iconic skyscrapers in the world. It's a very, very interesting album, and it's also kind of a little absurd in a way that the main theme behind the album is not darkness or mental health or anything like that. No, it's a cigarette commercial from the 1950s. So they got inspired by that. So when you actually look at the album cover, it's not on every album cover, but on some of them, they have a health warning, like on a packet of cigarettes. And it says Imperial Triumphant can impair your mental health and cause cardiovascular disease or epileptic seizure. So use new Goldstar responsibly at own risk.
Yeah. Everything is true.
Why do this? Why not? I think it's quite funny. Yeah, it's pure Imperial Triumphant, and I think this might be the album that will make them even available to a much wider audience than they already have now. Also, they have several guest musicians on that album.
That's true. Yeah.
First, a big name, or two big names. Dave Lombardo, drummer of Slayer. I mean, that is a big name. He is on Pleasure Dome. He's featured on Pleasure Dome. And we also have Meshuggah's drummer, Thomas Hake. And,
one of the craziest drummers ever.
Yeah, exactly. One of the greatest drummers.
Greatest,
as well,
also greatest.
both of them, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Dave Lombardo is legend.
But Thomas Hake doesn't do any drums here. He's actually doing vocals, spoken vocals, which is unusual. But I think that's quite of an interesting turn.
Yeah, it's weird to invite a drummer to sing on your album, but why not? I think why not?
There's no standard for these guys. They always do something out of the box. And another guest musician that I think also deserves mentioning is Yoshiko Ohara, which is from an old band called Bloody Panda. They did some kind of like noise, sludge, doom. Yeah, I had to look that up. But you hear her on several albums. She does background vocals, and she makes really very high-pitched, harrowing screams, to just like amplify the nightmarish experience even more. And she's also featured on Goldstar, only on one song, I think, on a song called New York City, which is probably the heaviest and weirdest song, but also the shortest. It's not even a minute long, but it definitely will leave an impact.
Yeah, but it's not the first time they got a lot of guest musicians. Also in the last album, Spirit of Ecstasy, they had guests like Kenny G on the saxophone, for example, and they also worked with
his son.
What was? Yeah. And I think was it Alpha? I think Alphaville was produced by Trey Spurrins of Mr. Bungle. That says anything to you, Mr. Bungle. It's also quite a weird band. It all makes sense at the end.
There's also Colin Marston from Krallis, who has been involved, either recorded or mastered or remastered their albums. And all their albums were recorded at a very iconic music studio in Queens called Menegroth Studios. So if you kind of like just Google it, you'll see that there's an enormous list of big records that were recorded there. And this is actually Goldstar was the final album that was recorded at this precise studios. I think they're either moving now or closing. So it was one heck of an album
end.
to end this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What they also did a lot in the past is they covered a lot of music from
Mm-hmm.
various bands. For example, they did a small EP with cover songs. There was, for example, a cover version of Radiohead's Paranoid Android. Uh, it's pretty weird when you know the original song.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of hear it, but it's Imperial Triumphant, so it's not like the original at all. And they also did a cover version of a Miles Davis song called Nefertiti. They're pretty talented guys who can do everything they want, and they also do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. There's really like no limits to them, huh?
Hmm.
And so I think that they are definitely not one of those bands that just wear masks or have this kind of unique sound just to show something off. Now, this is really what they were meant to do,
Hmm.
and it comes across as very, very authentic, and you kind of really feel that with them. Huh?
Yeah. Also, once you see them in interviews, they're really down to earth and chill,
Absolutely,
relaxed
yes.
dudes, and
I had the chance to speak to Zachary on two occasions.
okay,
One time in at a after a concert in France, a second time in Heidelberg in Germany, where they were touring with Behemoth again, and a really cool guy, very nice to talk to, and yeah. So as you mentioned, when they're down to earth, but then they have this extreme music coming out of them. It's like
yeah.
as soon as they put on these masks and these black garbs, they change into something completely different, like some kind of messengers from the darkness, something like that.
Out of this earth. So yeah, I think we already talked a lot about this band. As you heard, we really like, at least we appreciate dissonant sounding music like that. But then ask me at the beginning, why? Why actually people do like music like that? I thought about it, and it's really difficult to say, and I don't really know if I have an answer for it. I think for me, for myself, it all started with Despel Omega was one of the first bands
Mm-hmm.
that I listened to. As I said, you have to work for it to like it, and after time, you are looking for other bands. Then I found Imperial Triumphant, then I found Portal and Gorgots, stuff like that, and you really kind of get want to know more bands like this when you like it, but it's like reverse melodic death metal, dissonant metal.
Reverse. I like the way you phrase that. Reversed melodic death metal. Yeah, because a lot of times melodic death metal is a bit too straightforward, and to be honest with you, I got a little bored over the years with it. Not
Yeah,
that I don't appreciate it. Of course I appreciate it, but
sure, I know
it's
what you mean.
exchangeable.
Yeah,
And when you then listen to Imperial Triumphant, you get something that you cannot, there's no replacement for that. Okay, you have bands that still do something similar, but there are not that many that have this kind of deep sound as Imperial Triumphant. Okay, you mentioned Gorgots, you mentioned Portal, you could mention like a few other ones that I would find almost equally interesting. But yeah, what drew me to the music was just like looking for something unusual,
hmm,
different, and again, yeah, always something dark, because if you don't want to hear something
yeah,
dark, disturbing in a way, then don't listen to metal, because you will not have metal that is uplifting and beautiful and about love songs. No, it's not like that. So, but with Imperial Triumphant, you just kind of get an experience that goes a little bit deeper than most metal, which is kind of still quite interchangeable, and but not so much with these guys.
yeah, exactly. So if you're interested, give these guys a chance. They are definitely worth it. Even though you maybe will not like it at the beginning, give it a few more tries, and maybe you will find your way through their music. it's worth it, definitely. We both can tell. So yeah, I think that's it for today. We would like to thank for watching and leave a like and subscribe, and then we will see us soon at Comedy. Bye bye.